Hey everybody. Okay, sorry. Pardon my hand. We're going to see if we can fix this just a bit. Okay, Corey Johnson here with Mom's Running Club. And we're back live again talking about ScreamFree Parenting. Sorry, you are wobbling. Sorry. ScreamFree Parenting. So again, I hit the desk. Sorry about that. Okay, so again, this is we're going to file ScreamFree Parenting under stuff moms care about. So while Mom's Running Club is a running club, moms care about so much more than our fitness. We care about our fitness, and I continue to maintain that you're crooked. I don't want to fix it. I continue to maintain that when we take care of ourselves by running and feeling fit and taking in within reason, really trying to eat well, enjoy yourself. I continue to maintain that when we feel our best, we are best able to be the kind of mom and the kind of partner and the kind of employee and the kind of friend and the kind of sister and the kind of daughter that we want to be. So I think of fitness, and I especially think of running, as kind of a gateway to feeling your best, being your best, feeling your most confident and connected. So Mom's Running Club. Running is the overarching theme. However, because we are moms, we care about so much more than just our fitness. And so ScreamFree Parenting is one of those things that I think moms care about. When I talk to moms about ScreamFree Parenting, there's a lot of aha moments, as Oprah would say. There's a lot of those moments of like, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way, but that makes so much sense. And that is what ScreamFree Parenting is all about. Super logical. Super logical, but just packaged in such a way that when you see it all together, it kind of can become a motivating and a driving force for how you approach your relationships. I do really believe that this can be about so much more than parenting. There is now ScreamFree Marriage that came out a few years ago, but as soon as I learned ScreamFree Parenting, I immediately began to apply it to my marriage, because this whole idea is focus on yourself. You can only control yourself, so focus on yourself. When you need to influence somebody else, make sure you're in a really good place first. Feel really good about your mental state, your emotional state. Come at them from a really sincere, authentic place. Then you can represent yourself in the most honest and humble and authentic and really say what you want to say. So that's what ScreamFree Parenting is. Like I said, I always want to try to keep these brief for you. But don't forget, you don't have to watch me. There is absolutely no reason you have to watch my face and my wonky hair or my daughter's art. You can simply listen to this. So if you're really busy, go ahead and put it, pop in your earbuds, or go ahead and put me on the counter. If you're watching the recorded version, or whether you're watching it live, put me on the counter. I'm just going to talk to you. So you do not need to see me. Put me on the counter. Fold a load of laundry, empty the dishwasher, put me on your console and just listen to me while you drive, okay? So you do not need to see me. I just want to share this stuff with you because I want you to get it. I believe in this, and I believe in you and your ability to be the very best you that you can be. So section 1 we covered already, and that was basically this idea that you want to raise your kids by keeping your cool. It's raising your kids by keeping your cool, focusing first on yourself. Parenting is not about kids, it's about parents. The verb is parenting. It is becoming the parent you want to be. We are not raising children, we're raising future adults. If you're not in control, then you can't, if you're not under control, then you can't be in control. So to really have authority with your children, you need to be in a calm, centered, authentic place. Growing up is hard to do, especially for grown-ups. So it's supposed to be hard. All of this is supposed to challenge you, and we welcome the opportunity to grow in the challenge. Now today we're going to cover section 2. Section 2 is keeping our cool means creating space. So we're going to talk about physical space, your children's room, but it also is this idea that we need to not be needed by our children. If we're raising future adults, then we need to be okay with our child being mad at us. We need to be okay with our child becoming independent and not needing us to cover every physical need, every emotional need. We want to be there for them all the time, but we don't want to be so enmeshed that they cannot develop their own identity, their own confidence, their own personality, their own way of doing things, and their own ability to be angry at us, especially in our safe home, so that they can learn frustration and disappointment. And we're teaching them that. So keeping our cool, section number 2 in ScreamFree Parenting is keeping our cool means creating space. The first principle within section 2 is begin with the end in mind, but let go of the final results. What does that mean? That means you want to be thinking about, as you're parenting, you want to be thinking about what behaviors do I want my child to exhibit at age 25 or 35 or 45. And then in the moment, I want to act accordingly. So if I want my child to exhibit resilience, for example, and to be able to handle frustration and to be able to handle disappointment, then in my home, they need to experience frustration. They need to experience disappointment. And that often comes in the form of, no, you can't have that sleepover. No, you can't have that electronic device. No, you can't have that late curfew. I need you to do X, Y, and Z before you get to have the privileges A, B, and C. That's what we're going for. So when our child gets angry with us, frustrated with us, disappointed with us, we kind of have to be willing to settle into that and be like, okay, this is okay. I know for me, that's always been a struggle. I have to lay down this consequence or this guideline or this limit with my child, and they're mad and they're stomping around the house, or they're crying, or they're, they scream, "I hate you." I've heard that a few times. I'm glad to say I haven't heard that a ton, but it's a rite of passage for a parent when they're doing something their child doesn't like, but they're doing it for the good of their child, to hear, "I hate you," or "You're the worst mom in the world." That actually is almost our goal. When we are really present and we are parenting and we are laying down consequences from a really present state that make logical sense to us, because we know we're thinking about the end in mind. We're thinking about when they're 25 or 35 and they're mad at us, then we need to be willing to be comfortable with them being mad at us. In fact, we need to almost say, "Good job, Mom. You know what? You're sticking to your guns. You're laying down a consequence that's going to teach them resilience, humility, independence, how to handle frustration, and you're beginning with the end in mind." 25 years, when their boss is, being a jerk, they're going to be able to handle that frustration. They're not going to be throwing a 25-year-old temper tantrum in the office. Okay? So what kind of begin with the end in mind, but let go of the final results. What does let go of the final results mean? That means I'm always on a mission to see my child become that 25-year-old capable, independent, strong, resilient adult. But I'm also going to allow for the reality that my child's going to make their own choices. And the final result may not be a result that I love. So respect a child's choice. Maybe the best thing in a given situation is a consequence. So can that consequence lead to something good? So leadership is basically good. Okay. Leadership, I'm going to read this directly because it's an awesome quote. Leadership is giving clarity to choices, explaining the time limit on choices, and explaining the consequences. So what does that mean? So in my house, I've got 10, 12, and 15. So it might look like I've asked you 3 times to replenish the paper towels. And if that's not done in the next hour, I'm going to take your iPad, I'm going to put it in the safe, and it's going to be there for the next 5 hours. And yes, I do have a safe for the iPad. I do have a safe for the electronics. So leadership, when we are leading our children, we're giving them choices. You can choose not to replenish the paper towels, but just know that if it doesn't happen in the next half hour, you've lost your device for 5 hours, okay? Leadership, how we lead our children is we give them choices. They have the choice to defy us. But when they do, this is what happens. Okay. We want their decisions to be their own. I love this quote. We want them to want to clean their rooms. We want them to want to get good grades. It's not that we want them to clean their rooms. We want them to want to clean their rooms. We want them to want to keep the house clean. We want them to want to get good grades. That's our goal. Our goal is to help them develop that self-starter, that confidence, that investment in their own future, in a clean home, in a clean space. We want them to want that. And that is a perfect lead in to the next principle, which is kids need their own space. Everyone is born with a kingdom. Even in the smallest, most modest home where 3 siblings share a bedroom, they need their own space. They need something where they can say, this is mine, because that's how they learn to be responsible for something. So we can't call it theirs and act like it's ours. What does that mean? So I am a neat freak, and I'll admit it. I like a clean space. It makes my brain calm down. However, I have children with varying levels of desire for clean space. So I have to give them a little bit of freedom within their space. What I can say is, if I'm going to break my neck getting to your bed to tuck you in, I'm not going to tuck you in. So if you want me to tuck you in and to spend that time with you in the evening, I need to be able to have a clear path to your bed. That's what I require. So you can lay down these basic requirements as to standards of cleanliness, but they need to have their own space. That's how they learn independence. That's how they learn responsibility. What our children need most are parents who do not need them. What does that mean? That means we need to allow them to hate us. We need to allow them to become independent. We need to desire those things for them. They need to be able to be angry with us. We need to, every once in a while, like I said, pat yourself on the back. She's mad at me because I'm sticking to my guns, because I'm saying, no, we're not going to go shopping. You're going to go help your dad with the lawn work. And she's mad, and it's hard, but it's scream-free. And every once in a while, I'll just say to myself, wow, that's scream-free, and I'm really proud of myself. Last principle in section 2, actually there's 2 more. Resistance is futile. Practice judo parenting. I love this because it totally needs to be explained. There's this idea in judo, and I don't know judo, but there's this idea in this martial art where the goal is to be almost shoulder to shoulder with your opponent as opposed to face to face. So let's say your child says, I'm bored, or all of my friends have the iPhone, blah, blah, blah. Your response could be, well, too bad. You know what? You've got 19,000 electronics. You've got 20,000 friends. We live in a privileged community and you're not going to get everything your friends get. That could be your response, and that's a confrontational response. However, your response could also be, well, that stinks. Bummer, right? You could just go shoulder to shoulder and say, gosh, I'm really sorry you're feeling that way. But in my scream-free brain, I know it's not my responsibility to fix that. Okay? So this is, again, that idea of responsibility to our children versus responsibility for our children. So we want them to learn to entertain themselves. We want them to learn to be resourceful if there's something they want that they don't have. And that's this idea of judo parenting. We're not going combat. There's no conflict. Our children, the idea, when a child says I'm bored, I love this idea. When a child says I'm bored, it is basically them saying, please take responsibility for the fact that I am bored. Please fix that I am bored. So rather than picking up that gauntlet, that challenge of I'm bored and it's your fault and you're supposed to fix it, instead we say, well, that stinks. What are you going to do about it? Okay? Does that make sense? Curfew. Let's say you've got teenagers in the house. At curfew, lock the door. Okay? So if they're not home, and then we're lucky we live in the era of iPhones and texting, and hopefully they've told you why they're not home yet, and it's not a problem. But let's say they haven't told you why they're not home yet. You've texted them 20 times, you haven't heard back, you don't know what's going on, and they're late. Lock the door. Okay? Make them knock, make them face you, and discuss why they're late. And the next time, curfew bumps back 30 minutes. So, and by back I mean, let's say it was 11, now it's 10:30. So it's this whole idea of we have to face the consequences of our actions. Okay, trying to make this quick. The That was resistance is futile, practice judo parenting. Last one I want to talk about today in section 2 is you are not a prophet and neither is grandma. I love this one. We tend to, when we have kids, say, well, this is the shy one, and this is the outgoing one, and this is the silly one, and this is the sweet one, and this is the confrontational one, and this is the defiant one. What we want to do is from day one, we want to allow, and I do it, I'll tell you what, I have my driven athletic one, I have my sweet malleable one, and I have my defiant one. I have my very independent defiant one. However, the idea is let's try to avoid these labels because we want to give them space to become who they want to be. If we put this label on them early, let's say we put this label on your child early. This child is the sweet, easygoing, laid back, agreeable child. Well, what happens when that child is, let's say, 15 and somebody's handing them a bottle of beer and they're like, well, wait, I'm agreeable. I don't challenge the norm. I go with the flow. We want them to be able to say, you know what? No. Usually I go with the flow. Usually I'm pretty agreeable. Usually I agree with what's going on. But you know what? No, I'm not going to drink that beer. So we want them to be able to constantly be who they want to be, not fit the labels and the boxes we put them in. So that's a really important idea. Expect your child to surprise you. Want your child to surprise you, and avoid that lasting influence of self-fulfilling prophecies. We don't want our child, that child's, the worst thing we can do is say, you're brilliant. Why is that? Because if you say they're brilliant, and because school has been easy for them, what happens when suddenly they get to a topic that really challenges them? Well, they're brilliant, but it's really hard. I don't get this. Well, how about this? You work hard. You're a hard worker. I'm really proud of you for how hard you work. So that idea then, okay, I'm a hard worker. This is hard for me, but I'm a hard worker. So I'm going to buckle in and I'm going to do what it takes because I'm a hard worker. When you put this label of you're brilliant over your child, they think that things should come easily to them. We don't want that for them. Or you're naturally gifted in sports or in music or whatever it might be. We can affirm their accomplishments, but we also want them to understand that they can become whoever they want to be. We see it all the time. Kids who play soccer for 5 years and suddenly I don't want to play soccer. I want to focus on becoming a guitar player. We want to make space for that. So we don't want to ever put them in a box that they feel like they can't get out of and they're on one track. Okay. Probably went longer than I intended. That was section 2, ScreamFree Parenting. Section 3 I'm going to cover on Friday. Keeping our cool means creating a place. And I want to talk about revolutionary relationships. So if you are just now tuning in, I hope you'll go back. I will post this live. I love to hear your questions. I really, really love ScreamFree Parenting. I obviously love to run, and I obviously love to see moms run, but I also love to teach about this stuff because I think, like I said, I've said it a dozen times, but in case you're just now tuning in, it's very logical. It makes a lot of sense, but so often if we don't keep it front and center, it's easy to get sidetracked. And for me, I love keeping ScreamFree Parenting front and center. I had a mom talk to me about this yesterday, and she said, it's really hard for me to keep my cool. And what I said to her was, the minute I learned ScreamFree Parenting, I immediately put it in the same box as yoga, which is to say that it is a practice. It is not something I do perfectly. It's not something I expect I will ever do perfectly. But if you just put yourself into practice, if you just say, you know what, I'm gonna keep this stuff front and center for me because I believe in it, it makes a lot of sense, and this is the kind of parent I want to be, then you're doing great. Then you're already winning if you've already decided, I'm gonna try. That's all you can do. Okay, like I said, I want to keep this short, probably already too long. Hit me with your questions, please. Cori, C-O-R-I, at momsrunningclub.com, or comment here on the page, and have an amazing day. See ya.